Steve Biko says that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And when we look at what is happening with the majority of African people that make up this country, you can see what they do to our minds. That everything that we do, everything that we see, everything that we say has to be in line with the logics of the European thinking. And if it is not in line with European thinking, most of us say it don't make no sense what you say. So when you go to a little sister now and you say, why am I African princess? You say, me I'm not African. Me never born in Africa.
Blessed love, my viewers and subscribers. Wagwan, open all doing good, open all doing great. Now, my people, today again on the Soul Chat TV with another Mutabaruka content. And this one, my people, the concept of this one is the belief of Haile Selassie and Jesus. There's a whole lot of people, especially African people, have a whole different concept and a lot of mixed belief when it comes to Haile Selassie and Rastafari. And Mutabaruka is going to be sharing with you some very powerful educational lessons pertaining to that, my people. It's a really eye-opening lesson, so you definitely want to stay tuned because it's going to get really interested. So my people, before we get into it, you know it's a Black Power movement, so definitely drop a like and subscribe. Share it to a friend or a family so they can be a part of the movement. Now my people, let's take a walk.
So when we look at people saying, well, I have too much confusion in a Rasta, I still try to figure out what part of it is the confusion. Because I know a man can't go farther where mind there and where intellect there. So when you hear a man say this, and you say, oh, a man said this over here, so and you come say that over there, so. Well, you have to look upon it and say, well, right now, the way how the man that see it in a film little sphere and film excitement and film mind is not how a man over there so see it, but ask him, who's the emperor? And hear him tell you. And that's right there, you know. Rastafari, and we not really feel a way to go all over the world and declare Rastafari. We go in any place, anywhere in the world and say that Emperor Haile Selassie the first. We not add nothing and not subtract nothing. Some people choose to add things. I saw, we sit down here saw, nah add nothing to that name, because nothing can make it greater or lesser. Nothing can make the person greater or lesser than who he is. So you could have pick up name on top of name and ascribe this to him and ascribe this to him. That making no difference. You have some people say, Rasta, you got dead from 1974, 75. Or you say that worship dead man. Well, it's a problem that, you know. It's a problem that, you know why it's a problem that? Because the majority of the Western world are worship a dead man who dead 2,000 years ago. And because them can't accept that death, them raise him from dead and put him in the sky. And then expect we the slaves, to look up in the sky, which what of us have been doing. A lot of us has been doing it, looking up in the sky and still looking up in the sky for that 2,000-year dead man to come to save them from white man oppression. So we has created a logics that surpass what we were taught in the Western world, because what we do is go forward into time and reconnect with our ancestral origin. That's why we call it heritage. We call it heritage because it connects us to a land. It connects us to a time in history. And it connects us to a place in history. So, the heritage that a whole heap of people search for as Jamaicans and recognize that other people who's amongst them has connected their heritage to a land and to a place and to a time in history, and then gone past way because them never give up that heritage, time and space. We, the majority of African people, has descended into a quagmire of amnesia all around me. As a matter of fact, it's Alzheimer's we have now. It gone past, well, I don't even know which one worse, amnesia or Alzheimer's. But it's like we're the two of them. We as African people can't seem to recognize that the spirituality that defines us do have to base itself in what the Europeans give us. But we truly need to be free, is able and can be able to produce and create our own viewpoints. Some people want to say it don't make no sense. The only time it don't make no sense is when you start to itch it to something where the slave master did give you. The only time it don't make no sense is when you itch it to some concept and some belief system that the slave master did use against we. So when we create our thing and use our thing, we try to justify it or validate it through the eyes of the slave master and the peripheral thinking. The peripheral thinking that was washed by the slave master in Africa. Not in Europe, in Africa. Because the Europeans was not the first people to go inside of Africa and create disturbance. Because we know of the Ixos who came out of the Caucasus Mountains and come right into our ancient place called Kemet and subvert the culture. Them Wolipa ones don't go for show you. How is it that Egypt, that famous place known as Kemet, that place that was at the top of the world, has now become a footstool for other nations and people and tongues? It is because of the thinking and historical references that has not been shown to the people that we need to examine before we can come to some clarity about what we see as our reality. And how Kemet was invaded by outside forces and stripped of its glory. And then it was invaded again by Arabs, and it invaded again by Europeans. And now the Arabs is there. The majority of Arabs in the world live in Egypt, that it is now known as. So we, former slaves, has created something that can and will enable us to liberate ourselves from not only mental slavery, but from cultural imperialism and what we dub white supremacy. Some people don't want to recognize that, but you have to recognize that somewhere or another, that we are under the pangs of white supremacy. That is why most of the things that we do, say, and think and believe in have to have a clarity within that sphere. That whiteness have to validate our logics. Whiteness, the only thing free us, the only thing sometimes is able to free us is the poetry. And when we say poetry now, we are talking about songs also, because every song is a poem put to music. So we have to say the poetry the philosophy in the poems, in the songs, has been a liberating force to clarify some kind of cloudy understanding of ourselves. The poetry, the songs have been able to open our eyes to recognize who we are. And if it was not for those griots, we would still be trying to use and justify ourselves through the eyes of white supremacy. Because when we look around us, when we look at what is going on around us, we recognize that white supremacy dominates us, even us who claim to be conscious, because we continually perpetuate these ideas that is not liberating us, but is putting us more and more into what we call colonialism, slavery, and spiritual decadence. And now regress is just forward, because we're now going to make the path that we have used the cutter to go through with, make it get rusty up. We're now going to lose sight of the prize. And we're going to keep echoing Africa for Africans, those at home and those abroad. We, the farmer slaves, who have liberated ourselves and is trying to liberate others who don't know that them is slave, we recognize that to say Haile Selassie in a country that has been dominated by white supremacist mentality and thinking is a challenge in itself, but we is up to the challenge. Because we know that his heritage, his history, his time, and his place that bring us to this point. And we are the memory, according to one intellectual, Barry Evans. We are the memory of the people of Jamaica, who only if they knew that they were slaves, they would try a way to get out of it. But because the colonial masters have played it so powerful on them, that we who recognize that slavery still exists is mocked and jeered at. What difference does it make? Why are you bringing up all these long time things? Why you don't just go through, you know, say everybody, a whole heap of people that go through, you hear them talk about that. Well, the reason why a whole heap of people go through and left we behind, the African majority, is because them place themselves. I want you to listen to me carefully, African people. The reason why other races go through is because them place themselves in history, in time, in a place. Check it. Check it. Them can tell you about a place. Them can tell you about a historical events or historical events. And them can tell you about them heritage. Heritage, you know. We are talking about heritage, you know. Because we are separate heritage from culture. Because where we have culture, We don't necessarily have to have heritage because we can create cultural experiences in the place that we find ourselves in that cannot be linked with any of our heritage. Yet still heritage define way deeper than just this little island your son. That's why other people them when them define them heritage, even though them wear a certain clothes at a certain time, but when them go into them heritage, the clothes that you see them come out with is not the same clothes that them wear to them work every day. We, the African majority, we go to work in the clothes, and when we come home and say to celebrate, we celebrate in the same clothes that we went to work in. That is sign of slaves. Because slaves can't change them clothes. The same clothes of them work in, are the same clothes of them sleep in, are the same clothes of them party in. As slaves that. The people around me, the clothes that them sleep in, them don't go to work in it. And the clothes that them go to work in, them don't go to party in. Them have different clothes for different things. That is heritage. That is knowing your heritage. So when you have Heritage Week in Jamaica, the African majority is confused. Them don't know them confused because them not celebrating them heritage. Them are celebrating them Jamaican cultural experience that define them in a space of slavery, chain round them foot and chain round them neck and chain round them brain. That is culture as it is defined in a given space that don't have no link to nothing more than the space where you find yourself in at the time. It's just that, you know. We are talking about place, time, space. I want to space, we're not talking about no sky. We're not talking about no peripheral understanding. Because them come with a peripheral understanding. And we take it up like say it is the main course. We say it's the main course. So everything we do, everything we believe in have to be validated through the eyes of the ones them who in slavery. So anytime we talk, and we want to talk sensible, we have to talk through the eyes of the ones them who in slavery. That's why Steve Biko said, the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We keep reiterating that saying. Steve Biko says that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And when we look at what is happening with the majority of African people that make up this country, you can see what they do to our minds. That everything that we do, everything that we see, everything that we say has to be in line with the logics of the European thinking. And if it is not in line with European thinking, most of us say it don't make no sense what you say. So when you go to a little sister now and you say, why am I African princess? She say, me I'm not African. Me never born in Africa. That is what we are talking about. We are talking about African people saying that them is not African because them never born in Africa. But yet still them keep saying Chinaman to Chinese people who never go to China yet. How the hell a Chinaman is a Chinese and them never go to China yet? Simple. He's connected to a place. He's connected to a time. He's connected to his heritage. And you recognize that. You Jamaican, we call yourself Jamaican, you recognize, say, the man is not of you. And you have to identify him in the space. Even though it's in your space. You have to identify him outside of your space. To a next space that is far, 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 far away. But the only way you can define yourself is in the space that you find yourself in that is not of your own choice. You never chose to come here, whether through your mother or through slavery. I never asked my mother to come here. Through some pleasurable experience from my mother, I came here. I never have no choice. And at a greater existence, my great-grandmother did not ask to come to Jamaica. We were brought here. Some of us get dropped off at some other country, some get dropped off over there, so some get dropped off over there. So. But when we come here and we will look and we are going, we feel that there's nothing else that exists but what is here in this space. So we celebrate what is in the space that we are at the moment. Rastafari come break that chain then now and say, look here. No, sir. Even though I'm in that space, I'm in the space, but not at the space. Step back. Me I create something. That's why we say I and I. And people say, you never go to school where I and I. Say, hey, born you and born me. I and I. The man say, hey. Then when you see I, you know, say Haile Selassie, man. And the area man around the corner said, Jesus. He said, no, Jesus. No, sir. John Hawkins ship. It says Jesus of rule because Jesus bring a command. So. The man said, where you get that from? He say, he should teach I that. The Rasta man go around him chalice and puff up him river and smoke out the place and him say, yes, you think you can't see I in the cloud? I disappear in the cloud of smoke. And you crucify yourself and you try to crucify I. And the thorn that you put on our head has now become a crown of rejoicing. So you can't really fool I. But there is always a but. That you can trick I. You can fool I. Because there's some of I and I who still choose to maintain the ideas that has been exposed on us by the slave master. So when you say locks, man look on the locks and say, dread, terrible. What if you go to your ears, so? But then him start to do females, so no, but him catch you now. Because meanwhile, all a little white guy now, and make him locks grow. And him locks tick up like all a tree, like all a mango tree. Where you see? We now have to find a way now to unravel the locks by creating some other method and way to make it don't look like locks. Meanwhile, the white guy around is not doing nothing. Even though film won't take longer for locks, but when you look on film one, it reminds you of the ancient Higher Congo, where come out of the bush, them are Hanover, and Westmoreland and St. James. And when you look at the little locks, them you have to know them twist up, like whisk with Tarzan you to swing pan. Because that's what them put way. Even though we say we are fine ourselves, but we have to find ourselves in context. And the context that we find in ourselves with is in the context of white supremacy. So white supremacy now, even though it allow the locks, but it give us another way to do our locks, to make it don't look like locks. Meanwhile, the white guy in Italy, in France, in Germany, and look like how we should have that look. But because we look on our own ear and say, boy, the ear look too natty Congo. No, sir. You know what my ear look so? We have to find a way to don't make it look like how it's supposed to look. Lightning. This is the cutting edge at IRFM. We're there with you.
This was a powerful, really powerful reasoning. Really eye-opening. Let me know how to learn. Let me know how to think about this. African people, we need to wake up. We have been misled for far too long. We need to get that grip. We really need to. But let me know what you think down in the comment section. And before we go, you know it's a Black Power movement, so definitely drop a like and subscribe. Share to a friend or a family so they can be a part of the movement. Now, my people, I'll catch you in the next one. Irie.